Hey everybody, this is Lisa Harper, and you're listening to the Not Ready Yet Curating Conversations for the Aging Journey podcast. This is the show that changes the conversations we have with our loved ones about aging and life decisions. Let's have more honest conversations where we speak the quiet parts out loud. Today we're joined by Todd Emrick, Director of Business Development at Wheaton Bekins, a globally recognized moving company. With a career in the moving industry spanning back to 1997, Todd has dedicated himself to understanding and addressing the unique challenges older adults face during relocations. As a trusted expert and sought-after speaker, Todd played a key role in developing a specialized training program in partnership with the National Association of Senior Move Managers, ensuring that seniors' cherished belongings and memories are handled with care and respect. And that is what we hope for all of our families when we're going through that stage. His insights into the senior moving process help both professionals and families navigate transitions with confidence. Todd has shared his experience on PBS's Legacy List with Matt Paxton and has offered guidance on moving aging parents and training local agents to better serve this population. So Todd this is going to be our part 2 for moving. If anybody listened to the our first session was on the industry insider know-how, just understanding the high level of how the moving industry is put together. And we learned some really great things there, and you shared some wonderful resources for families. So this is going to be a deeper dive on really talking about the family and their process as they start to say, we need to figure out how we're moving mom or dad. Or somebody says, we're going to go into independent living and we're moving from 4,000 square feet to 1,000 or 1,200 and what that looks like. So this part 2 is going to be more about that personal way that it affects your family and some of the best practices for you as you guys go through that process, which can be daunting. And it's really what we find in the industry. The thing that keeps people from taking action is figuring out what to do with the personal items in the home, that they almost act as a obstacle and a barrier to making decisions beyond what those next chapters look like. So Todd, thank you so much. Welcome back again. So great to have
Thank you.
you.
Very excited to be here again.
I just
Absolutely.
love how you boil things down and help us understand. I've said that the moving, there's so many parts of it that you lose control over. And I think that's one thing that is just scary about that whole thing. I think that's one of the big stressors in life is on that list is moving. And
Yes.
there's a reason why. So thank you again. So what would you like to share with us first off? Say we've made the decision. We know we have to move. It's for
Mhm.
our best. And we're hoping this is about the people that are being proactive. Sometimes these are not, we call them, I get to is where we're talking about like being proactive. I get to move. I get to make these choices. I get to be present in this process. And then there's the have to moves that an urgent crisis has happened and now we have to. So how do you want to start this conversation?
Well, the last session we talked about the big picture. So let's drill down and walk through the actual process itself. And that starts with the survey and actually having someone assess the move and understand the scope of the move. So then we can talk about pricing. And we hit on it briefly last episode where before COVID, we did almost every survey in the house. And then COVID changed the world. It changed us. So a lot of companies are using virtual technology now to do surveys. Both are fine. The key with both of them for success is communication. So let's walk through that survey process. What happens? So you can be prepared for it as well. So when they come to the home, you're going to need to show them everything that is moving and point out things that are not moving too. Keep in mind, they are going to look under beds. They want to open closets and cupboard doors. Do you have things in a shed out back? Do you have a storage unit that's off site? These are the details that they're going to need to know because what they are doing is they are taking inventory of everything that is going on that truck.
And if they
That
don't
is
know any
thing.
better, they're looking at everything. If you don't tell them, they're assuming everything's going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what we are doing is we are taking that inventory and we are converting it into a weight and volume. That way we know when Frank, your driver, shows up, he has the appropriate amount of space and manpower and material to actually move you correctly.
And so what does that look like when we say, okay, we're moving, we're calling? and they say, okay, let's schedule this survey.
Mm-hmm.
At what point should they have the house prepared, or what's the best practice even at that point?
Yeah, when most people call, there's still things that they aren't quite sure about. I would say 9 out of 10 people say, I'm really not sure if this dining room set is going to go or not. I may give it to my daughter or something of that nature. And that's fine. We can include it in the total weight and volume. And if it doesn't go, it doesn't go. That's great. But if you get to rooms of furniture and I don't know what's going to happen, then you're not ready, because we are not going to be able to prepare properly. And that's going to just it's going to be a service failure. And no one wants a service failure. Keep in mind, when we are scheduling these trucks, Frank, the driver, is picking up and delivering other families as he moves across the country. So we want to make sure that we have scheduled the appropriate amount of space in that truck for you. And if you say the dining room, this bedroom, and everything in the basement is not going, and we pull up and now it is going, there is not space in that truck for what you've added.
Okay.
And now we have to roll with it, make changes. Typically another truck is going to come and pick up additional items, and it just becomes a stressor. So communication and being prepared is paramount with the survey.
And being prepared even before making that phone call. And like you say, if there's a piece of furniture that may still go to someone or not, but when you were saying, if you have uncertainty room by room, then you need personally to make some
Then
decisions
you're not ready.
prior
Yes.
to, you're not ready to move. So
Yeah.
hopefully you haven't made a move-in date somewhere. You got some work to do. And so how does pricing work? I know you spoke of volume and weight, 2 factors.
Volume, weight, mileage. And it's actually weight and mileage are the 2 critical items. So that's why we are doing that inventory, to make sure that we know what that weight is. It's a mathematical equation that starts back from the 50s when we were doing military moves. We still use that today. It's pretty darn close. And I've always said that the estimating is not an exact science. It's a fine art. And that's why having trained, experienced salespeople working with you is so critical.
I could see that. I mean, that is a good way to say it. It is a fine art. So the weight, volume, mileage is what is being factored in.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so what you said, it was a military. I just love history.
Yeah. So
now
back in
my
the
brain wants
50s,
to know.
military, they move hundreds of thousands of people each year. And back in the 50s, they came up with a unified process to calculate the weights. And movers don't like change, so we're still using that. And it actually works out pretty well.
I love that. Usually, so when people come on and they have they've named their company or there's something that's just interesting, I'm like, why is it that way? That's just my brain. So I love that we were able
Absolutely.
to share that. That's fascinating to me. So very cool. So first we're making the call. We understand what we're taking, what we're not. And if they do have a storage unit or a handful, is that something that's just done? I mean, do people actually physically go to the storage unit?
I would highly recommend yes,
Oh, okay.
because I want eyes on everything, not only on the goods in the storage unit, but I also want to know where that truck is going to park. Because if you're going across the country, typically you're going to be into a semi-tractor, put in or loaded into a semi-tractor trailer that's up to 85 foot in total length. So these are the trucks you see out on the highway. Can they get into that storage unit? Can they pull up to the front door of your house? If you're in a gated community, if you are in an older community with narrow streets, sometimes we're restricted or sometimes we need permits to park. So these are some of the things that the salesperson is looking at as they drive into the home. They're like, oh, these are some low-hanging trees. I don't know if this truck can get through here. Where's he going to park? Oh, there's a fire hydrant right in front of the house. So these are all the things that's going through the salesperson's head as he's just driving up to the home and not even knocking on the door yet.
So they're gathering intelligence before they've even stepped up to the front to knock. They're
Absolutely.
Oh, that's
absolutely. Because if that truck can't pull up, we're going to have to use a smaller, what we call a straight truck, like what you would see as a U-Haul. That would go to the residence or to the storage unit to load. And then we would have to then drive to where the truck can safely park and reload the goods on the over-the-road truck.
Gosh, okay.
So now you're extra labor, extra vehicle, extra time, extra charges.
Gotcha. Okay, that's huge. That's very important to know. I'm just picturing some neighborhoods in Charlotte that have the historical, like the trees and the low hay.
Yes.
Like, yeah, no trucks getting down there.
Well, and I don't know who has designed senior communities, but none of them can accept large semi-tractor trailers. They're just not built for them. So I would say 99% of them have to be shuttled in with that smaller vehicle to the actual residence.
Oh my gosh. So, of course, then, and that's why we say these types of moves require a higher level of knowledge. Everybody says, oh, I can do it. Our family can do it. We can get this done. We can call, just the number of these, if they're not used to doing these moves. I mean, right there, you just pointed out 5 different things that are like, oh my gosh,
Right.
wrong company. People are pulling up the day of going, we can't get to you.
Exactly. And that's why it goes back to communication. Let them know, hey, I am moving to ABC Senior Living Community. Great. Who is your sales representative there? Because I need to talk to them. I need to know where the truck can park. I need to know if there's a reservation for the elevator. There's a thing called a certificate of insurance, which basically says, hey, I'm a mover, and if I damage your walls, I'm covered for repairs. Some communities or even apartment complexes do not let us on property without having that in their hands. And there's specific wording that has to go with that, special coverage that has to go with that. So these are all the questions or hurdles, I call them, that need to be moved before we can make sure that that process goes smoothly.
Wow. Okay. That's huge. Yeah. And so the in-home, I see the convenience of the virtual. I mean, heck, we're doing it this way. You're in Indianapolis. I'm
Yes.
in Charlotte. There's a wonderful thing about our virtual world that is allowing so many things that wouldn't have been 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
However, in certain scenarios, you still need a lot of times the boots on the ground to be there visually to see the things because I feel like some of those, I don't know, you tell me, but is there like a limitation with the virtual surveys in that way?
For me, the virtual survey really truly limits that drive into the home and understanding where that truck can park. I can look at Google Maps, but that is a 2D satellite image from 35,000 feet. It doesn't tell me that there is restricted parking because there's a handicap spot. Or if there's an alley there, but that alley is under reconstruction and the city has closed it. So by actually being there, this is the information I can gather versus what I can just see on the internet.
Okay, well that's awesome. That's wonderful. So we've scheduled the in-home or virtual survey. What's the next step?
Well, one more thing with the survey. So as you're going through, point out sentimental items and high value items and ask the salesperson, what are your plans for these? This is my great grandfather's grandfather clock, or God help us all, a German shrunk that needs to be taken apart. Or I have a sleep number bed which needs to be taken apart by professionals or the warranty will be voided. Do you have a Peloton bike? Do you have a Picasso hanging over the fireplace? These are the things that we need to know so we can prepare properly. Does the Picasso need to be created because it's an oil painting? The Peloton needs third party to come apart. So this is how we are calculating your final price, but also making sure that your move is being done correctly.
Oh, that's huge. I mean, and that is I feel like everybody at every level wants all of their things to make it safely to their next destination. But even more so, like you say, identifying the sentimental and the high value items
Absolutely.
and asking, what is your plan for these?
Yes.
And they should
And
have
then that should translate over into the estimate. So when I'm providing an estimate to someone, yes, you see the packing, you see the transportation, you might see that shuttle at origin, but then you're also going to see, I've got a third party coming in to prep that grandfather clock because the chimes need to be taken out and it needs to be set. Or that Peloton bike where the monitor needs to come off. Again, sleep numbers, all of these different things. While we are great at moving, we are movers. We don't have some of those special skills that are required. I can't build a crate. In all honesty, no one wants me to be driving a truck either. That's why they put me behind a desk. But Frank is a great driver. He's not a craftsman that can build a crate. And that's where we bring in those third-party people that can do that and do it properly.
And nobody wants to, I mean, the client that's moving and the movers, nobody wants to be confronted with those decisions the day of the move. Like all of a
Absolutely.
sudden, hey, this is real. I'm really concerned about this. Like you guys are coming in. I mean, and just saying, okay, we're ready. We're going. We're going. Let's put everything out there. Like you say, communication, so that
Yes.
the day of, there's no major interruption like that. Because I couldn't imagine going, coming into a house and then all of a sudden we have a Picasso that we were never told about.
Absolutely. And now, do you want me to just pack it in a mirror carton with, a cardboard box and send it off and hope for the best?
Right. Or they
Or do
saying
we
we're
need to stop everything and hopefully get a crater in there? Maybe he could get in that day. If it's in the middle of summer, which is our busy season, probably not. So again, communication, removing those hurdles, everything goes great.
And when you say crater, I'm picturing like the curators at the museum that, they come in these, they're custom built crates made.
They are.
Okay.
Yes.
And so some
So
of those
just
items.
like there is a network of moving companies, there's a network of senior home coaches. There's a network of people that do what we call third party services. So they will come in, they will make sure that that grandfather clock is prepared correctly. They will make sure that it is created. For the creating, what we need to do is make sure that the salesperson is getting the actual measurements of that Picasso. So then I can call my creator and say, hey, I've got this at this size. Then I can price it and put it on the estimate, and they know what type of material to bring out as well.
And this is a question coming from somebody that has no clue what the answer is, but on those type of items, is there a question people should be asking about the level of insurance that comes along with that?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. You are responsible for telling us the value of that item. So if you are telling me it's a Picasso that's valued at $1 million, we need to make sure that you have the proper amount of coverage should there be damage to that Picasso.
And that's on the individual that owns the piece.
The customer is holds the burden of proof for that. So you may need to get an appraisal before you're moving. If you've got a daughter that, is moving mom and mom has said that this is a Picasso, do we really know it's a Picasso, or has mom said that since the 70s? We may need to have an expert come in and get an appraisal before the moving company or anyone else even comes out.
Okay, wow. Okay. And then the burden is on the customer to have the proper insurance to.
Absolutely. And if it's $1 million, we may want to take a look at an art specialist to move it versus the movers.
Last question on insurance, but my brain goes to, if you're moving across states, does that matter with a piece with your insurance for your personal
Yes. And
property?
so keep in mind, moving companies cannot sell insurance. It's against the law. What we have is valuation. So we have a declared value for your shipment. The calculation is $6 per pound times the weight of your shipment. So a 10,000 pound shipment would have a minimum amount of coverage of $60,000. You would have to purchase that. You elect to purchase that. I think we touched on this briefly in the last episode. So movers provide at no cost limited liability coverage of 60 cents per pound per item. That Picasso is much more than its 60 cents per pound per item. It probably weighs 15 to 20 pounds, but valued at $1 million. So now we have that 10,000 shipment, $60,000. That's still not covering the loss of that Picasso. So now you've got to talk with your mover. One, how are you going to prepare it? Two, how are you going to cover it? And how much is that going to cost me as a customer?
Oh, that's one. Those are huge things to be finding out prior to even picking up the phone to call.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good stuff. Yeah. I mean, these are things that I think families are, and that's again, the process is so overwhelming. And it's like, if we had a step by step of what we should be doing and best practices, that's what I'm hoping we can help families with. And so, is there anything else on the virtual survey or the in-home survey that you want to mention before we move on to the next step?
If it's a virtual survey, you need to be a little bit more prepared. You should have a tape measure so you can measure that artwork for them. I would have a flashlight handy. So if you're opening up a closet door for them, if you've got a large closet, walk-in closet or something, you can use a flashlight for them. These are small little tips to make sure that you are giving them accurate information.
Wow. So if you do the virtual, you become the hands-on measure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're going to be much more engaged. And as we had talked before with the senior move manager there, they can actually act as that person doing the walkthrough. I would recommend that the customer is still there to answer questions, but that senior move manager could manage some of the technology for them.
Okay. Yeah. And that responsibility of measuring, I mean, I know
Yes,
we all know measure twice, cut once. Um,
exactly. And
yeah,
if you're a
responsibility.
senior and you have mobility issues, do you really want to stand on the couch to measure that picture that's been hanging behind it?
No, and even just to be able to hold the measuring tape and yeah. So, okay, that's a huge tip right there, I think, in itself. That yeah, that responsibility with the virtual is going to weigh
Yes.
more on the customer calling. So I'm not recommending anything, but the in-home service is going to give them a greater ability to not only see the space in your home, but also the accessibility to the home, be the people they're responsible to measure and to gather the intelligence that is needed, that, we don't all have. That's
Yeah,
why we're
and
calling.
I will completely flip flop here. I'm old school. I love in home. One, I can truly connect with you and truly understand about your needs. But the new technology allows us to do that right here, right now. It's just making sure that we have that extra communication
Yeah.
to where we are getting all the information that we need.
Okay.
You may need to talk to Mrs. Smith. Hey, tell me about your drive into the home from the main drag. How does that look? Are there any S curves? It's going to be an extra step or two, but it is a wonderful technology that's available for us.
And so either way, whoever you're calling, they're either going to schedule an in-home tour or in-home survey or virtual survey.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And so we've got that. And then what's the next step in, I guess deciding when you decide that you're moving and you're going, and some people, I give kudos to people that are eager to just clear things out before they know they have to move. I think that there's a great sense of peace that comes about when you're able to clear out additional
Mhm.
clutter and things. So for people, what do you recommend to people once they make that decision that, okay, we definitely need to downsize? What, obviously, sorting through personal items before you move, like you say, when you get there, having clear knowledge of what you're taking and what's not being.
Yeah, if you don't need to move it, why pay to move it? And then you have to deal with it once you're there anyway. And now you don't even know where the Goodwill is or where the dump is. So taking care of everything on the front end, such as the right sizing, the downsizing, that's going to reduce stress. It's going to reduce cost, and it's going to allow you to get set up and settled in your home much sooner.
Yeah, it just makes, I mean, and I know it's so hard. It's every day I hear from somebody that the things, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. But you make, I mean, such a huge point. If we're getting anything across, don't make the decision before you move, let that be a part of the place you're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, don't pay for it. Don't pay for that extra space to pack it up, the extra energy. And then just that mental heaviness of knowing and the emotional toll, knowing where you're going, you're bringing all that stuff that you still have to deal with.
I've seen people want to move firewood before. Why?
Yeah. 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 Why? So, let's see. And that's an avoidance thing. And I just give people, I want people to have hope that when they start those new chapters, to start it with the things that you're only going to need in that new space is just giving you your better footing towards that new beginning that you're going into.
Absolutely.
You can find the power to do that. And we have other resources about downsizing and that. So won't go too far off on that, but just be clear and move forward with the things that you're going to need at that next stage of life. What about, so now we know we've identified in that little segment about, just making the decision, right?
Hmm.
What, as far as packing boxes,
Sure.
what's your best practice? What have you seen that you say, please don't do this? I know there was just a recent story of somebody, because I hear it all the time. We don't need that. My family's going to come into town and we're going to pack stuff up. And you know what happened? They can do it. But then they also had boxes that were so heavy nobody could pick them up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So I would say anything that is breakable, anything that is of value, let a professional do the packing. You can do your pots and pans, you can do your clothing, you can do the books. That's a great way to make sure that you are not paying That's a great way for you to control the price by that packing, because that's a sweat equity that you can put in, and you can even tell the surveyor, hey, I would like a price for full packing, and I would like what's called a breakable pack. So he is only going to list out those breakable items on a separate estimate for you. So now you can see, hey, is my time worth X amount? Or do I just say, you know what? You do it. I'm done. You pack everything. Because
Okay.
it's not worth my time, because I've got to switch banks, utilities, deal with doctors, etc.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, I always say to people, I know you can do it. I get it, right? Yeah. I'm
But
not saying
when,
you can't, but do you want to? And exactly. And not pack things to the point that nobody can pick it up. And
yes,
you called that a breakable pack that you can tell
correct.
people you want them to just quote you on a breakable pack?
hmm So
Okay.
it's called a full pack, where we come in and we do everything, versus a breakable pack. And then they'll just list out, that china set, the mirrors, the pictures, that sort of thing. The lamps. Certainly want us to pack the lamps and the lampshades. But that's going to allow you to really help control that cost if you're really budget minded.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's a great tidbit. And then as far as packing materials, I've heard different things with bubble wrap and newspaper. And I mean, anybody well, does anybody read newspapers anymore? That's another subject. But newspapers, anybody that's held them for any amount of time knows that
Absolutely.
the residual of the ink comes off. And
So we
so,
have packing paper,
okay.
which is nice, thick paper. There's no ink on it. You can buy bundles from the U-Haul store, or your mover can typically sell you some if you want to do some of your own packing. You can also ask your mover if they have any used packing material that they can give you, or new packing material that they can sell you.
Okay.
And then typically they can arrange to deliver that for you as well. So that way it's right there on your doorstep, and you can do the packing that you want to do.
Okay, and so just the plain brown wrapping paper is best
hmm
to use
Yeah,
because
and
I've heard
movers
bubble
do
wrap
not
can
use
go.
bubble wrap at
Okay,
all.
yeah, go into the bubble wrap.
None. We do not use bubble wrap. Everything is wrapped in the paper.
Okay,
Um, we've got some padded paper that we may use on some very fragile items. It's more for international shipping, but it may be brought in for special pieces like sculptures, that sort of thing. 99% of the stuff is wrapped in paper, packed in that box. We're looking for density. We don't want things to vibrate or shake, especially if you're going across country. It's going on a lot of roads. And if you've seen the roads lately, you're going to hit a pothole. So
yeah.
you want to make sure that that box is dense and it doesn't shake, because that's really where your damages come from.
Okay, the shake test. And so if somebody's not doing the full pack, they're doing the breakable pack, the recommendation is to use the brown paper. And then as far as like labeling or size of boxes, is there any best practice that you could offer to people that are going to do some of the packing themselves?
Sure. Labeling, you want to make sure your name is on there, what room it is going to, not what room it has come from. We always put your registration or your order number on there, so you know that that is on there. We list it as either packed by owner or carrier packed. You would want to make sure that you've got this side up on it, or fragile on it if you're doing any of the fragile packing. And then you tape it up. I would also recommend if you tape the seams as well. That way any dust or anything of that nature really can't get into the box.
Okay.
Especially if you're doing your own clothing. They have special wardrobe cartons that has a bar that goes across it. Tape up those seams and the side where the bar hangs. That way dust and whatever can't get into your clothing as it travels.
Okay. Okay. That's good. And then just so you just recommend people like pack within the room and leave the box in the room.
I would leave them in the room. Yes, make sure that they're labeled for where they're going. I would make sure that you certainly have a plan of where you're putting them, because you're going to be living in that house as you're packing. So you may want to designate one area in each room. Or if you got like your front room is completely empty or something of that nature, that way the crews don't have to go through the entire house. Whatever fits your best living situation. But you don't want to cause a tripping hazard or anything else of that nature while you're doing your own packing. And you had mentioned box sizes, especially if you're working with mature adults. Use smaller boxes, Because if you're going to use a larger box that can get up to 50 to 70 pounds, I don't want to lift that, let alone have Mrs. Smith lifting that. So be aware that someone is going to have to unpack that and move that box at the new home.
Yeah, it's not just a matter of taking this bookshelf and putting it in a box
Right.
and feeling like you've accomplished something. It is, let's have, yeah, somebody has to pick that up and move it. And there is a limit to that of what, yeah. So again, just trying to make the most sense of being efficient too in the process if they're gonna choose to do some of it. What's the time, like I know everybody's timeline, we've talked about some people this has to happen now. Some people are proactive and doing the downsizing and getting to a place where they know, okay, we're going to go into independent living. We're going to live in this community for a while before the assisted living or skilled nursing or memory care is even needed. And
Mm-hmm.
for those people, I give kudos to because, or just having a plan, whatever that equals, because the have tos and the must do this now is when you don't have your options anymore.
Right.
And so for those people, is there any advice on families for either of those scenarios that you could give? Because I know you've seen both, you've probably dealt with a lot in both of those categories.
You know, if it's a happy move and a want to move, as you call it, I would say, so our busy season is typically in the summer. When school lets out, everyone wants to move before the kids go back into school. And we see a lot of the military moving in the summer as well, which takes up a lot of capacity for our industry. So I would say 30 days out in the summer, you want to start calling your moving company and getting on their schedule. In the winter, fall seasons, I would say you can get away with 2 weeks. I would still say 30 days though. That way you're not stressed when you're calling around and going, I'm sorry, I don't have any trucks left. And now you're stuck and you don't know what to do. And you are going to be stuck using a U-Haul if you can even find one of those in the summer.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize that about the summer. I mean, I guess makes a lot of sense when you say it that way, but I didn't know the military side of it, that they're
Yes.
adding just the volume to everybody's plate.
A lot of volume. Absolutely.
Interesting. And so for families like adult kids, I'm hoping that this is speaking to them in the way of trying to get information before they need it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when something happens and you're forced into a world of a lot of healthcare jargon and uh, talking to estate attorneys and trying to figure out all these things that are now, we got to get answers now. And a lot of those, they don't move at a pace that you may need the information when you're like any kind of advice you could give to adult kids that are hearing this going, we know we need to move mom and dad, anything that, to even get them to start to broach the conversation.
Yeah. We talked about it in the first episode. I would certainly work with a professional. I would contact a senior move manager through the National Association of Senior Move Managers. These are trained professionals that are separated from the emotion that is going on, and they can provide you with not only sound advice because they are connected to everyone. They know the elder law attorney, they know the mover, they know the junk removal, but they can provide you with professional guidance of what is the next step. And especially if you are in a situation where it is urgent and you need to make decisions, you want someone there that has made these decisions before and can give you sound advice quickly.
Yep.
Because time is of the essence now.
Yep. And like you say, the resources around you, because when you start opening those conversations up, you realize you need people in many different facets of industries, and to have somebody that can point you in those directions. I always say that with the senior home coach is, I see myself as almost like the old school Trivial Pursuit wedge. And
Yes.
we're plugging people into those spots. And it's like, who do we need? And then you plug one in. And if you have somebody that has the local knowledge and the resources and those connections, and they have them on, there's not speed dial anymore, but you guys know what I'm saying, that, you've got them in the phone and you can be like, oh, who do we need right now? And you reach out, and these are the people that have that knowledge, so that you're not alone on an island trying to find the next person that you need in the process.
I love that Trivial Pursuit, because I've always said, as a senior home coach, you are a hub of resources, and you are out there every day talking to the experts in each of these fields, whether it be moving, the elder law, And you're going to know what comes next before a family even knows what is happening now. And you're going to be able to assist them and really remove so much stress.
Yeah, because I feel like so many decisions go, it's like this is the next decision you're making, but we see the one on the other side of it. We're not there
Correct.
yet, but let's start gathering information in that way. And so it is having those resources, like you say, especially at this time, for the mature adult moves, so many decisions being made, and there's moments of grief, in their life that it's not just grief of humans, it's grief of things in life that they can't do anymore.
Yes.
They notice they're slowing down. There's a lot of things that they're processing. And so I think as adult kids, the more that we kind of we only try to, and this is why I'm here, hopefully to share this message with everyone that you can get information before you need it so you don't feel so completely overwhelmed, because you're going to feel overwhelmed regardless. But to kind of know how the moving industry works and to know the things to ask. And if you didn't listen to the first episode, there's just gold inside of that as far as how, the industry insiders info. And I always say this with every industry. I'm like, people know in the industry. And so if we can just have a little bit of glimpse into that to just get us on the sure footing that we're not walking on thin ice as we move forward in this process, we're like, okay, we know what to ask and we're confident. And if you didn't listen, you need to go back, because there's so much in that first episode of how the industry works and the things to ask to stay away from being scammed or just being in a logistical nightmare. Those are things you don't need at this time. You want this move to go as smooth as possible, because you're already having high level discussions that might last weeks about one piece of China. And so you don't need this to be the part that gets really murky. So I just think, Todd, is there anything else you want to share with us today? Because I just love how this has gotten broken into two sections, because there is so much and there's a loss sometimes of feeling like you have the control in the move. And I just feel like we're giving that back to families right now.
I would love to talk. I would love to talk about transit times. So
Okay.
if you're moving locally, a lot of times they'll pack you up in the day, get you and delivered in the afternoon or the evening or the next day. If you're moving across the country or out of state, it's a completely different process. We talked about Frank the driver and having other families on his truck. So Frank is going to zigzag his way across the country, picking up and delivering other shipments, which, by the way, keeps your price down because now he's consolidating other shipments on there. But what it does is it extends that delivery window out. So if, say, today we're loading on the 7th, if we're going out to California, it could be the 12th through the 18th as a delivery window for a smaller shipment. Now, where's mom going to sleep? Does mom have her medication? Does she have her banking information to open up a new bank? Do you have stuff for your kids to get them into school if you're a younger adult? So you need to plan to have nothing, basically, while the goods are being transported to you. Are you going to stay in the home and sleep on an air mattress, which a lot of younger people do? Or are you going to stay with your daughter? Or are you going to go to the senior living community and they maybe have a rental apartment? These are things that you need to plan for and make sure that you're not putting things on the truck that you absolutely are going to need.
That's amazing. That's a huge piece. And it reminds me of like when you're packing your carry-on when you fly,
Absolutely.
it's like, okay, if for some reason something happens to my luggage, I have my medication, I have my ID, I have cash, all my things. So that's a very important piece to this. As far as the timeline, when somebody calls and you gave the 30-day window to call, when they make that appointment, is that when they kind of get the knowledge of what that destination delivery looks like?
You will have that once you get the estimate, because we are going to need to understand the weight of the shipment, and then we have the mileage, and we put all that together. We get your pricing, we get your delivery schedule. All of that is then in writing on that estimate. And just because it's on the estimate doesn't mean that you can't go back and say, hey, Todd, I can't move in until the 18th, but you've got that delivery window starting on the 17th. Again, it's all about that communication and making sure both parties know, so those hurdles are gone and Frank the driver can get there and make sure that you have a great experience.
Yeah, because what a point to make is that once they pick up, it's not like it's just the time it takes to drive there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're going into a senior community, they may have certain times that we can deliver in. So now we have to coordinate with the driver and the community, now Mrs. Smith and the daughter.
So have that backup plan of what your accommodations look like in those days before the arrival of your items.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Though the carry-on bag that stuck with me because gosh, that's one of my worst nightmares. And it actually happened one time, and I was like, okay, it was a direct flight. Why did I think that nothing would happen? My stuff didn't show. And I was like, okay, it still happens. Okay, that's huge. So I think this has been just amazing. And I hope that this gives families peace as they move in this process of moving mom and dad, or like I say, some of you that are taking it upon yourself to just go, we're ready to downsize. We're doing this. And, sometimes I know downsize to some people is moving from 8,000 square feet to 3,000, whatever that looks like for you. To enjoy that next chapter of life. I always say I'm big on agency. I want people to have power over their decisions at all stages of life, as long as you can. And again, as if you're lucky enough to be here to age and to age well and to age with the knowledge that you're making the decisions for you. And I hope this becomes a family discussion for people. If you were able to pick out something that you know that this is coming for your family, and now we have kind of armed you with a couple things, high level thoughts to share. It all starts with conversations, and that's why this is called Curating Conversations, because I want families to just take some of this and be exposed to it, know it, and then however it fits in your family's decision. I hope it helps as they move through these processes, because again, these are stressful times, and if we can make the move as smooth as possible, that's a win. So, well, Todd, anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Use your resources. Call a senior home coach. You are a wealth of information that people can use. You know the resources. You can connect to me, whoever, but it all starts with you.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And for families out there, move through this with grace and patience. And I say that to both the adult kids and the seniors themselves, because everybody's trying to do their best. I think that's what we all do at all stages of life. And when you look back and you know more, you can say you could have done things differently, but give grace as everybody moves through these tough times. And these tough decisions, they're very complex, and they're not decisions that are made with one conversation. It's a process, and I hope that this is giving your family something to talk about as maybe a move is imminent in your family's future. So, Todd, thank you so much. What a wealth of information you've given us, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I had a wonderful time.
Thank you. All right, everyone, share this episode with someone that you know has a move coming up soon, and we will see you the next time on Not Ready Yet. We're breaking through the yet, curating conversations for the aging journey. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining me on Not Ready Yet, curating conversations for the aging journey. If something in this episode gave you clarity or the courage to start an important conversation, or offered a new way to look at things, I hope you'll share it with someone who might need the same encouragement. Remember, navigating aging isn't something we have to do alone or in crisis. With love, logic, and the right tools, we can face what's next with confidence and connection. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review. It helps others find the show. And just a quick note, the information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for medical, psychiatric, legal, or other professional advice. Always consult a qualified professional for guidance tailored to your unique situation. This is Lisa Harper, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.